Do you ever look around and wonder if this is all there is? You've got the job. The bills are paid. The schedule is full. On the surface, you're functioning, maybe even thriving by society's standards. But when you're alone, when it's quiet, you feel it. That deep, gnawing restlessness. That subtle ache that whispers, you're not living the life you were meant to live. You feel like you're floating. Not sinking, but not swimming either. Just drifting. You're doing everything right, yet something's wrong. And if you're honest with yourself, you've felt this for a long time. That numbness, that boredom, that quiet desperation. You cover it up with productivity. You bury it in routine, but it never leaves. That's not a flaw in your personality. That's a signal, a red flag from the soul. The tragedy of modern life isn't that people are broken. It's that they're comfortable enough to keep wasting time while slowly falling apart inside. Comfort is the most seductive form of prison. It doesn't chain you up. It rocks you to sleep. It tells you that tomorrow will be different, that someday you'll get around to living. But here's the truth. Someday never comes. You're not unhappy because you're lazy. You're unfulfilled because you've abandoned yourself. You've silenced the voice inside that once screamed with clarity, and now it barely whispers. You used to know what you wanted, but over time, the noise got louder. Expectations, deadlines, obligations, and little by little, you traded authenticity for acceptance. You started asking, what will people think? Instead of, what do I want? You gave up your identity to fit into a mold that was never meant for you. And now you're exhausted, not from doing too much, but from being too little of yourself. That quiet suffering you feel, it's your shadow, trying to claw its way into consciousness. It's every part of you that you buried just to survive. The anger you suppress, the ambition you deny, the truth you avoid. It's all still there. And the more you ignore it, the more it controls you from the dark. Carl Jung called it the shadow. It's not your enemy. It's your truth. And it's starving for your attention. Look around. The world is full of people going through the motions. They smile on the outside, rot on the inside. They've settled for jobs that drain them, relationships that numb them, and routines that slowly strangle the life out of them. They scroll, they distract, they chase validation like it's oxygen. But when they're alone with their thoughts, they panic. Because in that silence, the truth shows up. This is not the life I was meant to live. You can't drown that voice forever. No matter how much content you consume, no matter how many checkboxes you tick, you can't outrun your soul. And you shouldn't. Because that discomfort you feel, that lingering dissatisfaction, it's not a curse. It's a call. A call to stop living passively. A call to stop existing just to meet expectations. A call to remember who the hell you are. When you ignore your inner voice, you create a fracture inside yourself. The outer self becomes a puppet, going through the motions. The inner self becomes a prisoner, locked away, screaming silently. This disconnection is what Jung believed to be the root of modern suffering. We suffer not because we lack achievement, but because we lack alignment. We do what we should instead of what we must. We chase what's popular instead of what's personal. And we lie to ourselves every single day, telling ourselves this is fine. It's not fine. You weren't born to survive a life that numbs you. You weren't born to be an echo of other people's desires. You were born to become something whole. And wholeness begins with confrontation. Not with the world, with yourself. This is where the work begins. Not on the surface, not with productivity hacks or vision boards, but in the depths of who you are, in the parts you're afraid to look at, in the questions you've avoided for years. Why am I really here? What do I want when no one is watching? What parts of myself have I buried just to be liked? Why do I sabotage the very things I say I want? These aren't motivational poster questions. They're weapons. They'll cut through your delusion if you're brave enough to face them. Most won't. Most will numb. Most will distract. Most will settle. Because truth is terrifying, and change feels like death. But ask yourself this: what's more terrifying? Facing the truth, or wasting your entire life avoiding it? Jung taught us that everything we reject in others is a mirror of what we've rejected in ourselves. You hate arrogance? Maybe you've repressed your own confidence. You resent ambition. Maybe you've buried your own desire for greatness. The shadow isn't evil. It's your undeveloped potential, your neglected self. And until you make peace with it, until you own it, it will own you. Self-sabotage, toxic cycles, unexplainable frustration, all symptoms of an unconscious mind screaming for attention. You don't need another self-help book. You need brutal honesty. You need to sit with your pain, not sedate it. You need to stare into the mirror and say, I've been lying to myself. And then, finally, you need to choose. Do you keep drifting, or do you rise? Carl Jung called the path to wholeness individuation. Not success, not popularity, not happiness. Individuation. Becoming who you truly are. Beneath the masks, beneath the roles, beneath the lies. It's not glamorous. It's not quick. And it's not safe. But it's the only thing worth doing. It means shedding the expectations that have suffocated you. It means burning down the version of yourself that was built for others. It means reclaiming the pieces of you that got lost along the way. This isn't self-improvement. This is self-excavation. You're not adding. You're unearthing. Piece by piece. Layer by layer. Until what remains is true. You want meaning? It's not out there. It's in the fire. It's in the breakdown. It's in the confrontation. It's in the refusal to stay asleep one more day. Meaning isn't handed to you. It's built in the aftermath of brutal honesty. It's born from choosing truth over comfort, alignment over applause, authenticity over safety. You will lose things on this path. Relationships, reputation, certainty. But what you gain is your soul, and that's worth everything. This is your wake-up call, not the kind you hit snooze on. The kind that echoes, because time is passing, and the life you were meant to live is not guaranteed. Every moment you delay is another moment you drift, another day you give away to fear, another chapter written by someone else's hand. So stop lying to yourself. Stop saying someday. Stop waiting for permission. No, this life is yours to claim. This pain is yours to heal. This path is yours to walk. And if you don't start now, when? Lesson 1. Wake up. Recognize the life you're actually living. To confront the creeping disconnection, the quiet restlessness, and the subtle but deadly patterns of passive existence. To look reality in the eye and finally admit, I've been asleep. Core focus, self-awareness, brutal honesty, waking from the dream of comfort. Before anything can change, you must face the truth. Not the one you show others. Not the one you tell yourself to sleep better at night. The real truth. The one that feels like swallowing broken glass. Are you truly alive? Or are you just functioning? Are you making choices? Or are you following a script written by someone else? Have you created your life? Or are you surviving it? This lesson is not about motivation. It's about awakening. Because you cannot begin the journey of transformation while you're still clinging to the illusion that everything is fine. It's not fine. And deep down, you already know that. The lie of comfort. Comfort is the most dangerous addiction of all. It doesn't come with sirens. It doesn't destroy you all at once. It whispers. It tells you, you're okay. You're doing enough. There's always tomorrow. And slowly, it puts your ambition to sleep. It dulls your instincts. It kills your inner fire. The life you were meant to live does not exist in comfort zones. It exists beyond them. And if you're not willing to wake up and see the prison you've built with your routines, distractions, and lies, you'll die with your potential still locked inside you. Actions. 1. Reflect daily for 15 minutes. Where am I just going through the motions? Sit in silence. No phone, no noise. Ask, which parts of my day feel robotic? What do I do on autopilot without presence, without purpose? Am I truly choosing or just surviving? Write it down. Name it. Drag it into the light. 2. Journal 3 parts of your life that feel meaningless or numb. Don't be polite. Don't be optimistic. Be honest. Is it your job? Your relationship? The time you waste pretending you're too tired to change? List the 3 areas of your life where your soul feels dead. Ask, why am I still tolerating this? What do I fear would happen if I let it go? 3. Identify where your routines have become your cage. The habits you think keep you stable may be the very ones suffocating you. Look at your daily life. Examine your morning, your environment, your conversations, your evenings. Ask, what am I repeating out of fear, not out of desire? What parts of my life feel like they're happening to me instead of being shaped by me? If your routine doesn't lead to transformation, it leads to slow decay. The cost of staying asleep. Every day you stay asleep, the price increases. The numbness spreads. The dreams rot. The identity fades. You don't wake up one day in the wrong life by accident. You arrive there through 1,000 days of denial. You don't just waste time. You waste yourself. This lesson is not a pep talk. It's a mirror. And what you see in it might disturb you. Good. That discomfort is a signal. A sign that some part of you still remembers what it feels like to want more. To be more. Mantra. Comfort is not peace. Comfort is quiet death. Write it. Post it. Burn it into your mind. Because peace comes after the war with the self. Peace is earned through alignment. Comfort is what you get when you give up. And this, right now, is the moment where you choose. Sleep deeper in the illusion, or rip the blindfold off and start the real work. Lesson 2. Face the mirror. Identify your shadow. To bring the hidden parts of yourself, your pain, your suppressed rage, your secret desires, into the light. To stop blaming the world and finally take responsibility for the internal war you've avoided your entire life. To identify the shadow within you, not to shame it, but to understand that it is the very key to your power. Core focus, shadow work, confrontation, emotional truth, radical self-ownership. There's a war inside of you. A war between who you pretend to be and who you really are. You wear a mask. So do most people. But underneath that mask lives the shadow. The part of you you've denied, rejected, and hidden away just to be accepted, just to be good, just to survive. You buried your rage because it made others uncomfortable. You buried your ambition because you feared judgment. You buried your rawness, your darkness, your hunger, because the world said it wasn't pretty. But those parts didn't die. They've been whispering through your actions ever since. Self-sabotage, toxic cycles, procrastination, destructive habits. These aren't accidents. They are your shadow, screaming for your attention. The nature of the shadow. Carl Jung called the shadow the thing a person has no wish to be. But denying it doesn't make it go away. It makes it dangerous. You see your shadow every time you overreact, every time you lash out, every time you criticize someone for something you're secretly guilty of. The shadow doesn't hide in the dark. It hides in your reflection. You think you're in control, but if you haven't faced your shadow, you're a puppet. The shadow pulls the strings. Actions. 1. Identify emotional triggers. Every time you feel excessive emotion, rage, jealousy, shame, disgust, pause. Ask, what am I really reacting to? What am I seeing in this person that I've tried to suppress in myself? Write it down. Don't justify. Don't censor. Just observe. Your triggers are clues. Your anger is a map. Your shadow is trying to speak. 2. Journal the traits you despise. Write a list of 5 traits you can't stand in other people. Be brutally honest. Then ask, where does that trait live in me? When have I acted the same way? Whether I admitted it or not. If arrogance enrages you, maybe it's because you were taught to suppress your confidence. If laziness disgusts you, maybe it's because you've punished yourself into overworking. If selfishness triggers you, maybe it's because you were never allowed to put yourself first. The shadow is never out there. It's inside. And until you claim it, it will own you. 3. Reflect on your history. Ask, what did I learn was unacceptable about me as a child? What emotions was I punished for feeling? What did I have to hide in order to be loved? This is where the shadow begins. During the moments you learned that being yourself came with a cost. You learned to mask. You learned to perform. You learned to survive. But now, survival isn't enough. Not if you want to live fully. Shadow journal prompts. What part of myself am I most afraid to show the world? What do I hate being accused of, even if it might be true? What truth about me have I been running from? Write until your hand shakes. Write until the mask starts to crack. Why the shadow matters. You cannot change your life if you refuse to face who you really are. You cannot heal what you will not admit. The shadow holds more than your flaws. It holds your hidden strengths, your assertiveness, your fire, your desire, your capacity for depth, for honesty, for realness. Everything you are afraid to be might be everything you were born to become. The risk of ignorance. If you ignore your shadow, you will repeat the same mistakes over and over. You'll think you're cursed. You'll blame bad luck. You'll sabotage relationships, destroy opportunities, and never know why. But the reason will always be the same. You're at war with yourself. Shadow work is the end of that war, but only if you're willing to look your darkness in the eye and say, I see you. I know you. I won't run from you anymore. Mantra. The parts of me I've rejected are the ones I need to reclaim. Lesson 3. Stop running. Sit with discomfort. Objective. To stop numbing, avoiding, and distracting. To break the cycle of escapism that keeps you from facing the root of your suffering. To recognize that the pain you run from is the path to the self you've been dying to become. Core focus. Emotional endurance. Silence. stillness, deep presence. There's a truth nobody wants to say out loud. Most people aren't afraid of dying. They're afraid of feeling pain, regret, anger, grief, emptiness. We run from these things. We drown them in entertainment, food, sex, ambition, relationships, validation. We are always moving, scrolling, working, eating, achieving. Because if we stop, we might hear what we've been trying to silence. But silence is not the enemy. Discomfort is not the problem. Running is. The addiction to escape. Discomfort is a mirror, and most people will do anything to avoid looking into it. This is why you scroll for hours, even when it makes you feel worse. This is why you say yes to things you don't want to do, just to avoid being alone. This is why you overwork, overthink, and overgive. You're not tired because life is too heavy. You're tired because you've spent years running from your own truth. You don't need another distraction. You need to stop running. What lives beneath the surface? Ask yourself this, honestly. What are you afraid will rise to the surface if you stop filling every moment? What emotion have you refused to feel for years? Is it rage? Because you were never allowed to express it? Is it grief? Because you never fully mourned what you lost? Is it shame? Because you've convinced yourself you're not enough? Every unprocessed emotion doesn't just go away. It waits, and it leaks in how you treat others, in how you speak to yourself, in how you self-destruct when you're finally alone. You think you're managing. You're not. You're leaking. And unless you stop, unless you sit in the discomfort you've been avoiding, you'll never be free. Actions. 1. Commit to 30 minutes of silence per day. No phone, no stimulation, no escape. Just you. Just breathe. Just being. If that terrifies you, it should. That's where the real work begins. Ask during this silence, what am I avoiding? What is rising in my chest that I don't want to feel? What parts of my life feel fake? And why have I let them stay that way? 2. Name the emotions you've been dodging. Grab a journal and answer this question. What have I been too busy, too scared, or too numb to feel? Make a list. Don't edit. Don't justify. Write everything that lives beneath the surface. Fear, bitterness, jealousy, regret, grief, exhaustion, resentment. Then ask, where did this come from? When did I first feel this? What would happen if I allowed myself to feel it fully, right now? 3. Notice your escape patterns. Track your habits for 3 days. Every time you feel discomfort, write down what you do. Do you check your phone? Open the fridge? Turn on music? Go help someone else instead of helping yourself? The moment you feel boredom, anxiety, or sadness, that's the exact moment your escape reflex kicks in. Your job is not to fix it. Your job is to notice it and sit in it, even if it burns, especially if it burns. The discomfort is the door. You've been taught that if it hurts, something is wrong. But sometimes the pain is not a wound. It's a doorway. Your discomfort is not the enemy. It's the threshold. You have to go through it to become who you are meant to be. There is no transformation without tension, no growth without grief, no peace without pain. You will not be reborn through another shortcut, affirmation, or 5-step hack. You will be reborn in the stillness where your demons finally have room to speak. And when they do, don't run. Listen. Shadow journal prompts. What emotion do I fear will destroy me if I feel it fully? What pain am I still carrying that I pretend doesn't matter anymore? What would I need to believe in order to sit with my discomfort instead of numbing it? Write without trying to be wise. Write without trying to sound healed. Just be real. Mantra. The pain I avoid is the part of me I need to meet. Lesson 4. Break the illusion. Challenge external scripts. Objective. To question the identities, goals, and definitions of success that were handed to you before you could choose for yourself. To tear down the false architecture of your life, built from expectations, approval, and survival. To realize that much of what you think you want was never truly yours to begin with. Core focus. Deconstruction. Unlearning. Inner authority. Freedom from inherited identity. There's a version of you walking around right now, built from the opinions of other people. You've called it your personality, but it's not. It's armor. You've called it your path, but it's not. It's a script. Most of what you call your life has been shaped more by other people's desires than your own. Parents who taught you that love must be earned. Teachers who rewarded obedience over originality. Friends who praised you for fitting in, not standing out. A society that told you success is a job title, a bank balance, a clean smile. You swallowed it, all of it. And now here you are, wearing a life that doesn't fit. But the problem isn't that you're broken. The problem is that you never really chose. The lie of the script. You were handed a blueprint early in life. Do well in school. Get the job. Buy the house. Smile often. Stay safe. Do what's expected. Don't rock the boat. Don't ask questions. Don't say no. And if you followed the script, you were praised. But if you strayed, you were punished. So you conformed, not out of desire, but out of fear. And now you find yourself restless, anxious, disconnected, wearing a life that looks fine on the outside, but feels like a tomb on the inside. This is not success. This is suffocation with a smile. Actions. 1. Examine your life story. Who wrote it? Take a brutally honest inventory. Ask, what career did I choose? And who was I trying to impress? What goals am I chasing? And do they even matter to me? What parts of me have I silenced to be more likable, more normal? For every major decision in your life, ask yourself this question. Was that choice made from freedom or fear? 2. Identify the roles you've been playing. What roles were you forced to play in order to feel safe or accepted? Were you the overachiever, the caretaker, the quiet one, the peacemaker? These aren't identities. They're defense mechanisms. Write down 3 roles you've unconsciously lived out and ask, what did I gain from this role? What did it cost me to keep playing it? Now ask the deeper question. What part of me did I have to kill to survive in that role? 3. Audit your definition of success. Take a blank page. At the top, write, success is. Now list everything that comes to mind. Money, titles, applause, perfection, image. Then, one by one, interrogate each item. Do I actually believe this? Or was I taught to believe it? What does this cost me emotionally, spiritually, physically? Who benefits from me chasing this? Destroy the script. Write a new one. Craft it in your handwriting. Not your father's. Not your mother's. Not society's. Yours. The truth about approval. Living for approval is a prison with invisible bars. You keep polishing your image, hoping one day it'll finally be enough. But it never is. Because the hunger for validation is a black hole. The more you feed it, the emptier you become. Carl Jung warned of this. He said that when we live by the expectations of others, we become divided. Half of us exists in the world. The other half dies in silence. That internal division, That's the ache you feel. That's why you lie awake at night wondering what's wrong. You've traded self-respect for acceptance, and it's time to reclaim what you gave away. Shadow journal prompts. What part of myself did I abandon just to be loved? Whose voice still echoes in my mind, telling me who I should be? What am I doing right now to look successful, even though it makes me feel hollow? If no one were watching me, what would I really be doing? Don't give polite answers. Give the ones you've been afraid to say out loud. Mantra: I will no longer betray myself just to be accepted. Lesson 5. Unearth your inner voice. Reclaim desire and vision. Objective: to dig beneath the noise, the shame, and the expectations, to find the original voice, the voice that spoke before the world got to you, to reclaim the desires you buried out of fear, and remember the future you once saw clearly, before you were taught to doubt it. Core focus: desire, curiosity, reconnection, vision, will. There was a time when you knew. You knew what made you feel alive. You knew what fascinated you, moved you, called to you. But the world taught you how to forget. They told you to be realistic. They told you to be safe. They told you to be quiet. And over time, you learned how to silence your own voice. You buried your dreams under guilt. You labeled your desires as selfish. You replaced what you wanted with what you thought you should want. Now, you live in a fog. You've lost your hunger. You chase things you don't even care about, hoping they'll fill a hole they were never meant to touch. The result? You look successful on the surface, but you're starving inside. The voice within. Carl Jung believed that the self is not something you build. It is something you recover. It's always been there. But to find it, you must first confront the noise of everything that is not you. The noise of society, the noise of fear, the noise of parents, partners, schools, cultures, trends. Your desires aren't gone. They're buried. And it's your job to dig them out. That means getting quiet. That means listening to what makes your heart ache. Not what excites the crowd. What moves you. The death of authentic desire. You want to know why so many people feel dead inside? Because they haven't wanted something real in years. Their lives are built around fake goals, impressing people they secretly resent, building a life that photographs well, but feels empty, striving endlessly for things that once belonged to someone else's dream. That is not ambition. That is slavery. And the chains are invisible, but heavy. To want something real, something that comes from within, takes courage. Because when you reclaim your desire, you also reclaim responsibility. You can no longer blame your parents. You can no longer say, I didn't know. You do know. And now it's on you to act on it. Actions. 1. Ask the uncomfortable questions. Take 30 minutes. Alone. No distractions. Write the answers to these. If I could live any life without fear of failure or judgment, what would it look like? What have I always secretly wanted, but never said out loud? What would I pursue if I knew nobody would laugh, leave, or try to stop me? Don't write what sounds noble. Don't write what's expected. Write what burns. 2. Reconnect to past passions. Think back, before the masks, before the fear. What did you love doing as a child before anyone told you what was valuable? What topics did you obsess over? What environments, hobbies, or fantasies did you lose yourself in? These are not random. They are breadcrumbs back to your original self. Pick one. Return to it. Engage with it this week, even if just for 30 minutes. You don't need a plan. You just need to remember. 3. Identify your false desires. Look at your current goals. Ask, why do I want this? Who gave me this idea of success? If I achieve this, would I actually feel alive, or just relieved that I did it? If the answer feels hollow, it's time to let that goal die. It's okay to quit the wrong path. It's okay to disappoint the world, if it means you stop disappointing yourself. Shadow journal prompts. What desire have I labeled as selfish, but can't seem to forget? Where did I learn that my wants were dangerous, stupid, or unrealistic? What part of me comes alive when I'm not pretending? What kind of life do I envy, and why? These questions aren't easy, but they will cut through the fog. Mantra: I will no longer betray my desires to fit into a life I don't want. Lesson 6. Live the descent. Turn self-awareness into action. Objective: to begin the descent from theory into experience. To stop romanticizing the idea of change and start living it. To act, knowing full well that it will cost you your comfort, your image, and the lies you've depended on. This is the chapter where you burn the old life down and feel every second of the fire. Core focus: action, disruption, courage, initiation, descent. Awareness without action is a trap. It feels productive, insightful, enlightening, but it leads nowhere. You can journal every day. You can meditate, reflect, analyze, and understand. But until you move, nothing in your life changes. You don't become who you are meant to be by thinking harder. You become that person by bleeding into the process, by disrupting the version of yourself you've outgrown, by doing the thing you've been avoiding for years. And here's the truth most won't say: change hurts. Real transformation costs everything that kept you comfortable. That's why most people stop here. They stare into the mirror, see what needs to be done, and then pretend they're still confused. But you're not confused. You're afraid. And that fear is the proof that the work is real. The descent begins. Carl Jung warned us, no one becomes whole by staying on the surface. To reclaim yourself, you must descend into the parts of your life that need to be destroyed, into the habits that have kept you weak, into the roles you've played for too long. You want clarity? You want power? Then go into the wreckage. Dig through the mess. Touch the brokenness that you've been pretending doesn't exist. This is the descent. Not glamorous, not filtered, but real. And real is where your freedom begins. The cost of staying still. Make no mistake, avoidance is a choice. Delay is a form of death. You're not waiting for the right time. You're just not ready to give up the lie yet. Because the moment you act on what you know, everything changes. Comfort shatters. Fake relationships fall apart. The illusion burns. But so does your paralysis. So does your shame. So does your helplessness. You will be terrified. And you will also be alive. Actions. 1. Choose one area that must be destroyed. Go into your life with a scalpel. Pick one area that is clearly misaligned with who you're becoming. A job that drains you. A relationship built on guilt or obligation. A habit that numbs you into non-existence. A mask you wear just to keep others comfortable. Ask, if I died tomorrow, would I regret never changing this? What have I been tolerating because it's easier than confronting? What part of my old life is keeping my new life hostage? Now choose, and prepare to let it burn. 2. Take one bold, uncomfortable action. This week, not someday, not next month. This week, say what you've been holding in. Cancel the thing that no longer serves you. Apply for the thing you're not ready for. Walk away from what drains you. Start the damn project. Tell the truth. It will be messy. It will be emotional. It will be uncomfortable. Good. That's the point. 3. Write a reclamation declaration. This is not a wish. It's a vow. A warning to the old self. Take 10 minutes. Write. What version of me am I done being? What behaviors, excuses, or patterns will I no longer accept? Who am I becoming? And what will I do to honor that today? Sign it. Date it. Reread it every morning. Shadow journal prompts. What change do I know I need to make, but keep avoiding? What excuse do I repeat to avoid action? And what does it protect me from? What identity am I clinging to that no longer fits me? These answers will sting. They should. The sting is your soul waking up. Mantra. My transformation is not an idea. It's a fire, and I will walk through it. Lesson 7. Integrate the shadow. Make peace with power. Objective. To stop fearing your darkness and begin working with it. To understand that the parts of yourself you've rejected, your rage, your hunger, your chaos, were never flaws. They were untapped power. To take back the energy you've wasted suppressing your truth and use it to forge your most authentic, unshakable self. Core focus. Integration. Power. Wholeness. Self-possession. Emotional alchemy. You've faced your shadow. You've seen what lives inside you. What you were taught to suppress, ignore, and run from. But now comes the hard part. Now you integrate. Now you learn to live with your darkness, not as your enemy, but as your ally. Carl Jung said it clearly. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. If you want to evolve, if you want real peace, you can't just expose your shadow. You must claim it. You must own it. You must make it yours. Why integration matters. You've spent your life trying to be good, palatable, pleasant, nice, but all that self-editing hasn't made you better. It's made you resentful, anxious, small, and worst of all, it's made you powerless. The traits you buried, your aggression, your pride, your ambition, your sexuality, your instincts, your intensity, they didn't vanish. They just turned against you. That's what self-sabotage really is. The shadow's revenge. But here's the shift. When you stop rejecting those parts, when you learn to use them instead of fear them, you become whole, you become dangerous, and you become free. What does integration look like? It's not suppressing your anger. It's channeling it to set boundaries and speak truth. It's not denying your ambition. It's aiming it at something meaningful. It's not burying your jealousy. It's using it as a map to your unclaimed desires. It's not hiding your sadness. It's learning how to feel without falling apart. It's not fixing yourself. It's becoming real. Integration means being able to say, this is all of me. Not just the parts you like. Not just the parts that get applause. All of me. Actions. 1. Identify. One shadow trait. You feared or hated. Pick the part of you that you've tried the hardest to hide. Is it your anger? Your selfishness? Your lust? Your arrogance? Your manipulative tendencies? Now ask, where did this trait first appear? Who told me this was bad or dangerous? How have I tried to suppress this trait? And what has it cost me? Then take it further. How could this trait become a strength if directed properly? Example, your manipulative nature could become influence, persuasion, leadership. Your rage could become fire, protection, righteous discipline. Your arrogance could become confidence and self-trust. Second practice, controlled expression. Take one shadow trait, and experiment with expressing it consciously and constructively. Use your anger to speak truth you've been avoiding. Use your ambition to pursue the thing you've been too scared to chase. Use your jealousy to uncover the dreams you've abandoned. Shadow energy is nuclear. Left unchecked, it destroys. But when focused, it builds empires. 3. Stop over-explaining who you are. You've spent too long trying to prove that you're good, that you're likable, that you're not too much. Stop. Let them misunderstand you. Let them feel uncomfortable. You don't need permission to be whole. You don't need approval to stand in your truth. The moment you stop seeking validation for your edges, you start radiating power. Shadow journal prompts. What traits have I been ashamed of? And how have they tried to protect me? What would it look like to use this part of me as a strength instead of a flaw? Who benefits from me staying small, soft, silent? Who would I become if I stopped apologizing for being intense, driven, or different? Your answers will shake something loose. That's good. That's necessary. Mantra: I am not here to be perfect. I am here to be whole. Lesson 8. Walk the path. Embrace individuation as a way of life. Objective: to understand that transformation is not a destination. It is a way of being. To abandon the need for finality, applause, or perfection, and instead live as an ever-unfolding, ever-becoming force. To walk the path of individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming who you really are, no matter what it costs. Core focus: longevity, integrity, discipline, wholeness, mastery. You've burned the illusions. You've faced the mirror. You've ripped apart the false scripts, reclaimed your voice, and tasted real freedom. But now comes the hardest part: consistency. Now you must live it. Not once, not for a week, not only when you're motivated. Every single day. Carl Jung called this journey individuation. The process of integrating your conscious self with the deeper, unconscious truth of who you are. It's not something you complete. It's something you commit to. A sacred, brutal devotion to alignment. It means making choices that honor your inner truth, even when they cost you everything familiar. It means holding yourself to a higher standard, not because someone is watching, but because you are. The myth of arrival. Let's destroy the fantasy right now. There is no finish line. There is no final version of you. There is no moment when you'll have it all figured out. And that's not a curse. It's a gift. Because it means there is always more to discover, more to shed, more to reclaim. It means you are not here to arrive. You're here to evolve. You're not here to become someone else. You're here to become fully yourself. Individuation is not the pursuit of perfection. It's the commitment to truth, even when that truth breaks everything around you. What walking the path really means. It means you stop seeking external validation to prove you're on the right track. You learn to listen to a deeper compass, one no one else can read. It means you lose friends. You outgrow environments. You stop explaining yourself to people who never really saw you anyway. It means that sometimes you feel alone, but not empty. Because solitude is not a curse for the awakened. It is where the real ones remember who they are. It means you will have to rebuild, again and again. Not because you're lost, but because every new level of alignment demands a new level of destruction. That's the path. It's not glamorous. It's not linear, but it's real. Actions. 1. Establish your wholeness practice. Make individuation a daily ritual, not a random breakthrough. Build your personal foundation of alignment, with practices such as journaling raw inner truth, not to sound wise, but to stay real. Dream analysis. Track recurring dreams, images, or symbols from your unconscious. Weekly solitude. Disconnect from all external input and sit with who you're becoming. Honesty checks. Ask yourself weekly, where am I living inauthentically? Your truth is a living thing. Feed it. Listen to it. Let it guide you. 2. Write your mission statement. You've burned the old script. Now write your own. Answer: what code do I live by now? What version of me am I no longer available to be? What values do I serve, no matter the cost? This becomes your compass. When things get loud, chaotic, confusing, you return to it. You remember what you're building and who you refuse to be again. 3. Identify your archetype. Jung believed we are shaped by universal forces, archetypes that live in our psyche and guide our behavior. Are you the warrior, forging forward through resistance? The magician, transforming pain into power? The outlaw, rejecting the system to find your truth? The seeker, forever diving into the unknown to uncover meaning? Own your archetype. Embody it. Let it remind you that your path is part of something far deeper than logic. You are not just healing your past. You are activating something ancient in your blood. Shadow journal prompts. What am I committed to becoming, regardless of who understands it? Where am I still waiting for permission to fully evolve? What daily rituals keep me aligned with my truth? What do I know about myself today that I would have denied a year ago? These are your milestones. Not money, not followers, but depth, ownership, integrity. Mantra: I do not arrive. I evolve. I do not seek to fit in. I exist to become whole. To those of you who've walked with us through this fire before, you already know what this path demands. No mercy, just truth. You are the reason the GrimFace movement exists. You are the ones who refuse to stay asleep. Welcome back, warriors. And for those of you just waking up, this is your invitation. Not to feel good, but to become dangerous. Not to chase comfort, but to burn for something real. If you felt something here, if your soul stirred while the rest of the world stayed silent, then this is where you belong. Subscribe to GrimFace. This isn't a channel. This is a call to arms. We don't play the game. We break the system. We rise through the ruins. And we do it together. So join us. Stand tall. And wear your scars like armor. GrimFace. Not for everyone. Only for the awakened.